So not too long ago I was asked this question, is Sasori an Uzumaki? And my initial response was, well, no, I don't think so. But then, as I just thought more about this possibility, some things came into my mind, some very interesting thoughts, and that's why I'm making this video today. By the way, like this video if you enjoy my content and subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. 71% of you are not subscribed, and just come on guys, it helps me out, thank you. So anyway, Sasori, is he actually an Uzumaki? What kind of proof do we have for that? Well, first, we have the hair color, which is the most obvious thing. The members of the Uzumaki clan were known for having red hair, though there are some exceptions, such as Naruto himself, but we see that all other Uzumakis we get actually introduced and we get to know their names have red hair, namely Kushina, Nagato, and Karin. And their hair color is very similar to Sasori's. Maybe Sasori's hair is a shade brighter than Kushina and Nagato, but you know, it's pretty much the same. But of course, just having the same hair color wouldn't make you the member of the Uzumaki clan. There are other red-haired ninjas in the world, and there would be many, and they wouldn't be from the Uzumaki clan just because they have red hair. And that's just probably what everyone thinks. Oh no, he just has red hair, it's just a coincidence, you know? But the more I thought about it, the more I became a little curious, because some things do match pretty well. We don't know exactly what happened to the Uzumaki clan. We know they were destroyed, not extinguished, but the clan took a severe blow and their village was devastated. However, they didn't die off, and many of their people scattered all around the world. We see Nagato ended up in the rain village. We see Karin ended up in the grass village. Why couldn't someone end up in the sand village, for instance? It could happen, who knows, if people are accepting these ninjas from other places, if villages are accepting them. I don't know why the sand village would not accept them. Another thing that's very coincidental, or maybe not coincidental at all, is that Nagato and Sasori have the exact same age. In Shippuden, they are 35 years old. So that means the timeline from whenever something happened in the village and their parents had to leave to go to other villages, it could match, because if both characters are the same age, their parents would have left around the same time, and they could probably have a kid around the same time as well. Of course, there may be a couple of years, you know, of difference, but anyway, this is a pretty intriguing detail that I don't know if many people know, because both those characters have the same age. We can also see that only one of Nagato's parents was an Uzumaki. His mom had red hair, so that means she was the Uzumaki blood in the family. His dad didn't appear to be an Uzumaki, he appeared to be just a regular dude. And the same thing applies to Sasori. His dad has red hair, and his mom does not. So it makes sense for someone from the Uzumaki clan who's dispersed around the world to marry someone who's not from the Uzumaki clan, and their descendants have red hair and inherit the Uzumaki powers as well, just like Nagato did. So, okay, there is a plausibility they have the same age, they have red hair, so Sasori could be an Uzumaki as far as canon is concerned. Nothing would be broken by it. But in order to actually know if he could be an Uzumaki, we have to look at what Sasori can do, his abilities, because the Uzumaki have a very distinguished set of abilities. Of course, the first thing that comes to mind is that they have large reserves of chakra and a lot of stamina. We see that with Naruto, of course. We see that with Nagato being able to cope with the entire village for hours and then fight Naruto as well. Kushina also survived for a time after the Ninetales was yanked out of her, and that just takes a lot of effort and stamina as well. Most of the Jinchuriki just die instantly when that happens. Obito himself acknowledges that it's because of her Uzumaki blood that she can survive after the QB is extracted from her. And of course, Karin was also pretty durable, and she could heal people, which also kind of means, you know, I can give you some durability as well. The second trait of the Uzumaki clan members was that they were extremely good at sealing jutsu. Now, we never see Naruto or Nagato, for instance, doing any type of sealing that could be related to the Uzumaki clan, because that's not their speciality, but we see Karin and we see Kushina using those very large chakra chains to seal and contain their enemies. Kushina even did that to the Kyuubi for a time, and she was able to stop the Kyuubi's movements for a while there, so she was pretty powerful with those. But also, it's implied that the Uzumaki clan were good with all types of sealing jutsu. Mito, I think, says that the Reaper Death Seal was originally an Uzumaki jutsu, and that's essentially the strongest sealing jutsu in the verse, so I imagine they were extremely good at all types of sealing jutsu. So, does Sasori show any of these traits whatsoever? I would argue he does, actually. First, for durability and stamina, well, he is a puppet, so I don't really think stamina applies to him because he's essentially a construct. He doesn't have muscles, so he doesn't really get tired, but he does have a lot of chakra. He was able to control quite a lot of puppets, and he fought Chiyo and Sakura at the same time for quite a long while. Of course, that's the only fight he has in the show, really, but still, it's a pretty good fight. And even though he may not have as much chakra as Nagato or Naruto, I definitely think he has more chakra than Karin or Kushina, for example. But the interesting part comes when we talk about the sealing jutsus. Now, at first glance, you wouldn't say Sasori has any sealing jutsus, but I wonder, how can he transform actual people into puppets and retain those people's jutsus and techniques and chakra and Kekkei Genkais when they died in order to use them as puppets? Because if you think about it, that shouldn't really be possible. But a good way to keep the power of the puppets activated after they died would be some sort of sealing jutsu that maybe binds the power of the person who died into the puppet form, allowing Sasori to tap into those powers just like he did to the third Kazekage, and that enabled him to use the iron sand. I can't really think of anything else that makes too much sense. I think a sealing jutsu for that technique is probably the best explanation of how he could do it. He says he just transformed them into puppets, but he doesn't really explain how. Sure, to make a regular puppet, you could probably use other methods, like just grabbing materials and imbuing them with chakra, but to create those living puppets, that I would assume requires a sealing jutsu to make sure their abilities are maintained during their puppet state. And well, the Uzumaki were very good with sealing jutsus, which kinda corroborates this hypothesis. Sasori himself says he has hundreds of those living puppets and that the strongest one is the third Kazekage, so if he has that amount of expertise and if he could just bind the third Kazekage's power to the puppets, I believe that would be a very powerful sealing jutsu, which is in line with what we know about the Uzumaki. And then, of course, there's also the fact that Sasori turned his entire body into a puppet. The only living part of his body is his core. It's this weird looking cylinder that kind of resembles some sort of organ, but it's very weird. I don't know, guys, but I think he would have to use some type of sealing jutsu in order to do something like that. Because if you think about it, Sasori has no brain, he has no heart, he has no lungs, he has nothing. He's just a puppet with a living core. But he can still think, he can still see, he can still hear, he can function like a regular person. And I would assume he would have to use some sort of sealing jutsu to bind his own soul and his senses to this core he has. That's the only living part of his body. And, well, that sealing jutsu would require extreme power to be performed because it's a very advanced technique. No one in the history of Shinobi was able to do that, to turn himself into a puppet. And that's why Sasori became the most powerful puppet master in the world, and because he could also control 1,000 puppets or so. But so yeah, of course we don't have concrete evidence for Sasori being an Uzumaki, but if you look at it, things do line up, and if Sasori is an Uzumaki, I wouldn't find that strange at all. Let me know down below, what do you think? Do you think he is actually an Uzumaki lost in the Sand Village? Also, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching.